This is Soumya from Finance and Commerce. Welcome to my channel and please subscribe. Hi all, welcome you all to the Financial Management lecture series. Now we are discussing about working capital decisions. We have already seen in the Financial Management lecture series previous videos that financial management decisions are of three types. First one is investment decision, second one is financing decision, and third one is dividend decision. And investment decision is again classified into two: long-term investment decision and short-term investment decision. Long-term investment decisions are already discussed, that is capital budgeting decision. And the short-term investment decisions are called working capital decision. It is actually the short-term asset planning. That is, we have to decide how much fund is needed to invest in current assets. That is working capital decisions. What do you mean by working capital? Working capital is the circulating capital of a firm in order to meet the day-to-day operations of the business. That is working capital. The concept of working capital can be explained in two ways. That is, on the point of view of value and on the point of view of time. Based on the value, working capital can be of two types. First one is gross working capital and second one is net working capital. Gross working capital is nothing. It is the investment in current assets. So, gross working capital is equal to current assets. And the next one is net working capital. Net working capital can be explained in two ways. That is, the first one is, it is the difference between current assets and current liabilities. That is, excess of current assets over current liabilities. That is the first way. And the second way is that net working capital is that portion of current assets financed by long-term funds. Net working capital is that portion of current assets financed by long-term funds. These are the two ways in which net working capital can be explained. These are the two types of working capital on the basis of value. The next one is on the basis of time. In the point of view of time, working capital can be of two types: permanent working capital and temporary working capital. First one is permanent working capital. Permanent working capital is otherwise known as fixed working capital. It is actually the vital working capital of the business and the level of working capital below which the business has never gone. That is the permanent working capital. It is the minimum level of working capital required by a firm to operate. That is permanent working capital. And the second one is temporary working capital. Temporary working capital is not a vital capital. It is an additional capital above permanent working capital. Here, this is permanent working capital and this one is temporary working capital. This is the fixed capital and temporary working capital is above the permanent working capital. These two pictures depicts the relation between permanent working capital and temporary working capital. So, these are the two types of working capital on the basis of time. And permanent working capital is again classified into two. Permanent working capital is classified as regular working capital and reserve working capital. Regular working capital is the working capital required to meet the day-to-day operations of the business. That is regular working capital. And the second one is reserve working capital. It is that portion of working capital required to meet the unforeseen future contingencies. These are the two types of permanent working capital. That is, first one is regular working capital and second one is reserve working capital. Likewise, temporary working capital is also classified into two. The first one is seasonal working capital and the second one is special working capital. Seasonal working capital is that portion of temporary working capital needed to meet the seasonal fluctuations. According to seasons, demand for some products will fluctuate. So, in order to meet such demand fluctuations, some amount of working capital are required. That is known as seasonal working capital. And the second one is special working capital. Special working capital is that portion of working capital required to meet any specific purposes of the business or any special purposes of business. It is not the ordinary causes of business or operations of business. It is for meeting some special purposes of business. These are the types of working capital on the basis of time. So, working capital can be broadly classified on the basis of value and on the basis of time. On the basis of value, working capital are of two types, gross working capital and net working capital. And based on the time, working capital can be permanent working capital and temporary working capital. Permanent working capital is again classified into two, regular working capital and reserve working capital. And the temporary working capital types are seasonal working capital and special working capital. These are the types of working capital. Let us discuss more about working capital in the upcoming videos. Thank you. So, hope you like this video, and if you do, please subscribe and turn on notification by hitting that bell icon. Thanks a lot for watching. See you. Take care.